But we begin with Kevin Hincks, co-host of Fast Market Live at the CBOE. Wow, what a GDP report. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Nicole. Yeah, a big morning already in the markets, and it's going to get bigger as the day goes on. First and foremost, we got mortgage apps, not great, down across the board this morning. But then we got ADP around 8:15 New York time. That was a nice beat, 104,000 private payrolls. Does that correlate to non-farm payrolls on Friday? Not historically, but a good solid beat after negative 33,000 a month ago. That was revised to down 23,000. So good number out of ADP. Then the money ball. Second quarter GDP, our first look, 3%. Much higher than last month, obviously, when it was down 0.5, much higher than the expectations of about up 2.5%. Also, personal consumption expenditures that were up 0.5 in the first quarter. They were hoping for up 1.4, comes in 2% higher. Here's the thing. It was basically the tariffs, the imports that were pulled forward in the first quarter, thus taking away from GDP, jumped back. And that increased GDP over this quarter. There was one cautionary tale, and that is real final sales to domestic purchasers was up 1.2% in the second quarter. That was up 1.9% in the first quarter. So a slight miss there in that, but it was really the imports that were pulled forward in the first quarter, easing back to normal levels in the second quarter, caused GDP to snap from negative number to a big positive of 3%, Nicole.
It really is unbelievable. I mean, despite all the worries about tariffs and what will happen in our economy slowing, and will we have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP prints? Certainly doesn't look that way. That doesn't scream recession to me.
No, it really proves that the first quarter print that came in negative, remember 0.3, then revised the negative 0.5, was just that. It was that pull forward, that explosion of imports ahead of the tariffs that made that number. Remember, imports decrease from GDP. So that number was just a one-off event that at the time, the administration and much of the economic community was able to, discuss away, but that actually, came to fruition as we have a big snapback here. Now, tariffs, that's a different story, right? President Trump came out this morning and reiterated that the August 1st deadline is the deadline. He also came out and said, talking about India, he said they will impose a 25% tariff on India, as well as an additional penalty because of their Russian crude oil purchases. Now, remember, there were rumors a couple of weeks ago that India was going to be one of the first to the table with a trade deal. Now, it seems like President Trump putting much more pressure on them as no deal has come forward just yet. 25% and additional penalties because of their Russian oil purchases. So pressure on India, no break on the August 1st deadline, and pretty solid economic data so far this morning, Nicole. And we've got a Fed meeting coming up, as you know, and Jerome Powell's 2:30 Eastern press conference.
Yeah, I'm really waiting with bated breath. I cannot wait to hear the press conference that follows. No one's really expecting a rate cut today. I mean, they could surprise us, but not likely. He's not really one to throw out surprises. He's much more into translating his thoughts and having the market be a little bit prepared for moves that the Fed may make. So he may come out and say something about rate cuts if necessary, but not likely to get one today. But I'm looking forward very much to the press conference. You?
Well, here's what I fear. A lot of the consensus is Jerome Powell will not move on interest rates this time. That's pretty much a built-in, but that he'll guide towards a September rate cut because, remember, there's no August meeting. But Jerome Powell's history is not to get that far ahead in terms of looking to a September meeting. So does he hint that, or does he say we're going to see more economic data, we're data dependent? Remember, he's got a Jackson Hole speech that he's going to give. He could guide there, and the market could become frustrated with any lack of commitment to the September meeting. So that's the nuance that you got to watch for in this press conference. There'll be no announcement on a rate move other than no move, but it's that press conference that's going to be key to this market and how he paints the rest of the year going forward. I fear that he won't commit or be as committed as the market wants him to be. That could cause some volatility in the second half of the day, Nicole.
That makes sense. He's not really one to commit. I mean, that's Fed Speak 101, and we've seen that for decades, not just from this Fed chairman. You mentioned the mortgage apps. We saw mortgage demand dropping to the lowest level since May, so that whole area has stalled somewhat. Let's talk more about the mega cap names, because we have Microsoft and Meta today after the closing bell. What are folks saying?
I think you're going to look at, remember, these stocks, especially Meta platforms, Microsoft along with it, that have run big percentage numbers from the April 8th, April 9th lows. So there's going to be one thing. Remember, a lot of firms have been coming out and beating on earnings expectations, but the stocks have still come down. So there's the one of the problems that we're going to see today after the close. That being said, capex spending is going to be such a big headline maker for both these. Remember, it was Meta Platforms that really jumped their capex spending last quarter. And remember, Google Alphabet already went from $75 billion to $85 billion. What does Microsoft say? What do Meta Platforms say about capex spending? Is it going to hold steady? Is it going to increase like Google Alphabet did? There's one of the big headlines coming out of their earnings release this afternoon, Nicole.
Yeah, and then we'll have Apple and Amazon tomorrow, folks. Looking forward to those too, right, Kevin?
Yeah, similar, right? Similar. Apple's doing a lot of things that looks like they've got more people leaving for Meta. There was another announcement yesterday about one of their AI people leaving. So yeah, Amazon, obviously they're doing so many things with Azure, or not Azure, AWS. Azure is Microsoft. You'll hear about that today after the bell. But AWS, streaming, remember, their revenue is now last quarter, they were the top revenue over Walmart. Let's see where their revenue comes in. Is it another gargantuan number that looks like the GDP of a nation is their quarterly revenue number? So that's always interesting to see, because their e-commerce is just continues to gain momentum, as you know.
All right. Well, about 21 minutes to the opening bell. Kevin Hincks at the CBOE. Thank you so much. Great to see you this morning.